All right, friends, we are back with yet another post-match commentary on one of the more exciting fights that we had. This time around, it's Sami Rahimi with Bakhtawar Davlatov from the country of Tajikistan. As you can see, Sami Rahimi just hits a foul against Bakhtawar Davlatov in the very first second. With me, I have Ustad Iraj Ahmad Zaid today commentating on the match.
Hello, fight fans, and we are going right into the action between Sami Rahimi and Bakhtawar Davlatov. Sami Rahimi with a groin shot. I don't think it was on purpose, Kakael, but I think he caught him pretty good. So the ref is giving Bakhtawar some time to recover. And Sami Rahimi is anxiously waiting, and he's actually probably thinking in his mind what's going to happen, because he could very well get disqualified for something like that. Is that possible?
Well, if it's not intentional, the best result could come out for both the fighters is a no contest. Yeah, exactly. Oh, and you can see immediately.
Strong strikes from Sami Rahimi.
Tell us something about both the fighters, Sadiraj.
Well, Sami Rahimi, as you know, I know him very well. He's one of my fighters. I have worked with him for a while. He comes from a wushu background, and he was on the national team. He's a very, very talented fighter. He's one of my up-and-coming proteges, and he has made a name for himself in the SLFC. On the other hand, Bakhtawar Davlatov, he comes from a kickboxing background, and of course he has incorporated jiu-jitsu and wrestling and sambo into his game, and he comes from Tajikistan. So both of these fighters are young, and the thing that I think I need to mention is that Bakhtawar, before coming to fight Sami Rahimi, he had a fight with another Afghan fighter in Tajikistan, which he took a loss. So that could very well play in back of his mind as well.
Well, both fighters coming in with a 1-1 record, and as you can see, evenly matched when it comes to strength, height, weight, and speed.
He went for an armbar attempt, which Davlatov did a good job of retracting his arm and not allowing Sami to put him in that submission.
Well, after his first fight, Sami Rahimi, when he had that loss against Wahid Najand, he came to realization that his ground game was a little bit lacking, and since then he's been working really hard on his ground game. Rahimi has been a representative of Afghanistan on the international arena when it comes to the wushu, and he is a pretty strong wushu athlete, and that shows with very fast and powerful kicks. But here also he was
another armbar attempt. Picks him up and slams him. And as you can see, that Sami Rahimi is very comfortable working from his back. He has some activity, but it was kind of hindered by Bakhtawar slamming him. So that could send a message to Sami Rahimi as well. Sami is doing a good job controlling Bakhtawar's arms and basically extending his body, not allowing him to post up. And Bakhtawar, on the other hand, he's trying to get into a good upright position so he could strike down at Sami Rahimi.
Sami Rahimi.
He's able to post up, and Sami did a good job of not allowing him.
Sami Rahimi trying a couple of times at that triangle choke, but Bakhtawar is not giving him anyway. Go ahead.
Excuse me. What Sami needs to do, he needs to sweep Bakhtawar Davlatov, and he needs to change his position. It seems like he's remaining in this bottom position for too long.
Well, a good point, Saudi Raj. As we have seen in other fights with Sami Rahimi, he does have a little bit of a problem when it comes to being on his back and having a good escape or having a good defense. We saw that with Wahid Najand. We saw that we are seeing that here. That once Sami Rahimi is put on his back, he finds it really difficult to come out of those situations.
And one of the things is, sometimes your biggest strength could be your biggest weakness. Sami Rahimi is very comfortable working from his back. So that's one of the things that lately we have been working on, that for him not to lay on his back too much, even though he's very comfortable at that, for him to come back up in a reverse or sweep his opponents and land on the top position.
But does that give you an advantage when it comes to the scoring? Because fighters, no matter, I mean, I'm not saying that you cannot score from underneath, but always preference is given to somebody who's on top.
Exactly, exactly. That's the whole point. Because when you're in the bottom, no matter how comfortable you are, no matter if you're not taking any damage and you could control your opponent, it's in the eyes of the judges, the person who's on top always seems like that person is the more dominant fighter, and they have the preference of getting the better half of the judges.
In the last moments of the first round. So who are you going to score? I mean, in the same line with what we have been discussing here, even though Sami is on his back, he did have a couple of good elbows in there, which could have caused good damage.
A couple of good elbows, and he had about 3 or 4 submission attempts as well. Even though Bakhtawar, he was on top, he was not very active, and he did not try to escape, so he was not able to escape Sami's full guard. There we see some of the replays from the start of the first round.
So who are you going to give the first round to, Ustad Iraj?
This round I would give it to Sami for the fact that he was more active.
Even though Bakhtawar had a slam in there, and even though he was controlling the entire game for the full 4.5 minutes?
I don't see it that way. I don't see him controlling it. I see it as Sami Rahimi, who was controlling him more from the bottom than Bakhtawar was from top. Well, that's my humble opinion.
Okay. Back then, when this fight was taking place, it was a make or break situation for Sami Rahimi. He's one of those fighters who has a good presentation. He's a showman himself with very huge potential, and he's a massive talent. So this was, in a way, a make or break fight for Sami Rahimi, and he understood that, especially coming after the loss to Wahid Najand.
And also for Bakhtawar Davlatov, this is a redemption fight as well, because as I mentioned, he had lost to an Afghan fighter, and now he's in Afghanistan. He wants to prove himself by beating an Afghan fighter in Afghanistan. That's a big statement for him.
Of course, this match was in the light heavyweight category at 74 kilograms, and you can see both the fighters have a good stance, which helps them with their kicking and punching.
Yes, both of these guys are very comfortable on their feet, and as you can see, Sami Rahimi going in with a double jab. He was trying to land his two. Low kick and a counter by Davlatov. These guys, both of these guys are really good on their feet.
Yeah, Davlatov to me seems to be a more rounded or a more complete player when it comes to stand up and both on the ground. Sami Rahimi, on the other hand, as I said it earlier, when he goes down, he does face difficult situations to come out. And there you go, Davlatov takes him to the ground once again, and he is on his back for the second time.
Yeah, my commentating might be a little bit of a bias, because I know Sami Rahimi very well. And with me watching him working off his back, to me, I know that he's choosing to work from his back. And to some, some viewers and stuff, people who don't know him, they might think that, he's stuck. But then at the same time, for Sami Rahimi, he needs to prove himself in his future fights that he is able to come out of the bottom, and he is able to reverse his opponents, which he's not showing in this fight.
Bakhtawar Davlatov on a full guard position, a butterfly guard position on Sami Rahimi.
See, as you can see, the Bakhtawar Davlatov, his legs are extended by Sami Rahimi. He's trying, every time he's trying to collect himself, Sami Rahimi is extending him again, so that even though Sami Rahimi is in the bottom, he's still controlling the better part of this fight.
A contentious issue that I think some of the referees who are refereeing this match here in Afghanistan might have a difference of opinion with you.
Definitely. And, that is their opinion.
So again, Sami Rahimi is looking for that triangle, but
as you can see, as Sami Rahimi is extending Davlatov's legs, his body. Today, if he was to be in that same position, I'm sure he would be able to pull off a submission from there. but in this fight he was not aware about the submissions that are available from that position.
Well, Sami Rahimi has always seemed to me as one of the more intelligent Afghan fighters out there, because immediately after the fight, he is one of those guys who is going to go to his room and replay the entire fight and keep assessing it until he finds all the mistakes that he made, even in victory. But that could sometimes also, and try to work on those mistakes for the next round onwards. But that could sometimes also let you, like, give you a state of mind where you think that whatever you're good at right now is not good enough for you, and you need to learn new things and actually be weak at whatever you're good at. Do you understand what I mean, Ustad Iraj?
As you can see, Samir did a good job, even though he's in the bottom, he's controlling, he's dictating the fight, and he's dictating where Davlatov's head should be. He turned his head towards the center of the ring, and Davlatov is not showing real dominance here. As you can see, his body's extended again, and Sami Rahimi is raining down the elbows, and with Davlatov, showing some good haymakers, but they were not landing flush on Sami Rahimi.
But again, as a stand-up fighter who has pretty strong kicks and who has pretty strong punches, I would like personally for Sami Rahimi to control the game on his feet, rather than playing at the strength of the other fighter or his opponent.
I agree. Right now, he should get up on his feet and continue the fight on stand up. And as you said, that I think he could do a better job in stand up position.
Another 30 seconds to the round. We are at the very end of the second round. Again, the entire round was on Sami's back with Davlatov on top.
Davlatov being extended, not as you can see, it keeps on going back to that.
Well, the MMA rules, this opens up a good discussion here, Sadiraj. The MMA rules, especially for pro fights, they're not as technical and they're not as detailed or scientific as, for instance, the Taekwondo or boxing, for instance. I mean, a punch is a punch, but MMA doesn't allow you to score a point when you hit somebody in the face. The punch has to have certain attributes to it, like the punch has to be effective, and the way effective is defined may differ from one person to another. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
The thing is, that's a very interesting point. Myself, right before this event that we are about to have, we had a coaches and judges meeting with the SLFC organization, and they explained the rules and the judging criteria. And one of the things is that judges, they look for reversals, they look for fighters being on top and being dominant. So that's one of the things, even if a fighter is comfortable like Sami Rahimi is in the bottom, that's for scoring, for the MMA scoring system, especially in the SLFC, that's not good enough. He needs to sweep, he needs to get on top, he needs to be on side mount, he needs to be on mount for the judge, for him to be able to impress judges and for the judges to score the rounds on his behalf.
Back on the feet, both fighters, we are heading into the third and the final round here.
He has that little cut on his left side of his eye. It's not bleeding.
The ref, Jamshid Qayyumov, is another one of our international referees.
And we are on to round 3. Let's see if this round is going to be a replay of round 1 and 2, or there's going to be a change of game plan of these two fighters.
Samuel going all in here. Whoa, a strong one, strong punch.
He knows he needs to make a statement in order to win this fight.
And another takedown, but Sami is back on his feet now.
Let's see if Davlatov is able to take Sami down from this position. Sami is going for a judo throw.
I think Davlatov is cut badly and he's bleeding badly now.
He's cut on the other side as well. How did that happen?
I think I missed that one.
I think it was one of the punches. The glove might have cut Davlatov's right eye.
And he is bleeding badly. I think he is bad enough. The referee is stopping the fight right now.
Stopped it, I think, for the doctor to take a look at Davlatov's cut.
Is that something that happens often in other international fights.
I mean, if there's a cut around the eye, uh, they do stop the fights.
But do you think the bleeding was enough here for the referee to merit a stop?
No, and especially the cut is on the side of the eye. It's not on top of the eye, so it's not, the blood is not really getting into his eye, and he did not complain about not being able to see. So I think this was a little bit of premature stop.
Because I've seen a lot of other international fights where the fighters have been in a more disturbing position than he is in right now, but the referee has continued on with the fight. Is it because, I mean, this is Afghanistan and we have fighters with relatively low records and...
Yes, I think that the ref is taking that under consideration as well. You know, some of the cuts, some of the big bleedings that we see is on big events like UFC, Bellator. Those guys, a lot of them, they have 20, 30 plus fights. So with those guys having cuts is different from the guys who got like 2 fights at max.
And there you go, the replays just showing my own stance that Sami should be standing on his fight.
A little bit more motivated to fight. And Davlatov to me seems like he's downtrodden. It doesn't seem like he's in this fight.
The referees are trying to assess the situation. I think Davlatov is complaining of lost vision in one of his eyes and he cannot see. That's what he's saying.
But that's a big cut actually on his right side.
I think a couple of punches did harm him pretty heavily.
Yeah, I think that's an even bigger cut than his left side. So if the fighter says that he cannot see, should the ref allow the fight?
Well, it'll come down to the doctor's stoppage. The doctors have to make a decision on this, and if the fighter says that he cannot see, then the doctors have to go ahead with the decision. It comes as a doctor. Yeah, what can you do? If the fighter says that I cannot see, he cannot see. And that's exactly what has happened here. The doctors have assessed, and the fighters told the doctors that he cannot see. He has lost. Yes, I think Sami Rahimi was given a doctor stoppage and the fight.
He's got the fight. It could have been a questionable decision if he had gone the 3 rounds, because Davlatov was on top. From one viewpoint, he was in control, and obviously from my argument that he was not, but it could have gone either way. This stoppage and the last burst of punches that Sami Rahimi threw was the difference maker for his win.
Yeah, I think Davlatov got hurt badly and he lost his vision on his right eye, and that's why he said, I cannot continue, to the doctors and his coaches.
He's got a good future ahead of him. I think that's a good decision on his part. If he cannot see, then he should not continue.
Let's go to the ground. Amanullah with the results.
جالب دیدنی و جذاب. داور مرکز استاد جمشید قیوموف این مسابقه را متوقف کرد. برنده این مسابقه به دلیل TKO سمی الله رحیمی.
Well, the referee and the judges called this fight a TKO in favor of Sami Rahimi.